This MFL MarMac Coach Conversation brought to you by Birdnow Chevrolet, Havlicek Trucking, and Meyer Auto Service. We're with head coach Dan Anderson, and the Murderers Row portion of your schedule ended last week, but it ended in the way that you wanted with 28-7 win over Denver. How'd you get it done, Coach?
Great defense is where it started. Denver's been, like we talked last week, they've been, bullying teams. They beat New Hampton like 42-14. They beat a team in Wapsie early in the season, non-district, who I think is 6-1. They beat them handily 38-12 or something. And, they beat NFB, 35-14, I believe. I mean, they are, and then they came into our district and they were undefeated and 5-0 and ranked in the top 4 of the state. Then they lost to Sumner, and then they had to play us, and just a tough physical team, big across the front, 240-280. But, we didn't get bullied by them. Our defense showed them who the big dog was, I guess, because they've been averaging about 300 yards rushing every game. And that Micah Greer, their running back, is leading Class 1A in the state of Iowa in rushing with 1,150 yards coming into the game. And we held him to 38 yards, and they had 31 yards of total rushing yards. So they averaged 300. We held to 31 yards. So started right there. Defense, we were swarming the ball and extremely physical. And nobody's been able to run the ball well on us this year. I think we're averaging only giving up about 40 yards a game rushing in all of our games. So very happy with our defense. And then our offense, considering we were going against guys that big up across the front of the line, we were able to create angles and open up some holes. And we had 200-yard rushers, and our quarterbacks were also 7 for 11. We played 2 different guys at quarterback, and both of them played really well.
And you mentioned the offensive side of the ball, 6.1 yards per attempt, 9.7 yards per completion. When you threw the football, numbers like that really allow you to stay on schedule, correct?
Yeah, and we have, been struggling throwing the ball this year. Either, we drop a pass or, overthrow a receiver. We've been struggling with that this year. And Friday night, we did a much better job of it. And we played, Carver obviously is our starting quarterback, but we wanted Elias, another senior who's played receiver for us and is a starting corner for the last couple of years. He's been playing quarterback, in practice, does a really good job. And so we wanted Elias to get a chance to get some reps when it really counted, not at the end of a game when it's, we wanted him to get, against a good team, a Denver team who's, a top 5 ranked team, get Elias some playing time when it really mattered to see how he could do. And he really impressed us. He was 2 for 3 and he managed the game well out there. And so, we were happy with both of our quarterbacks. They both did a nice job of leading. And obviously our offensive line opened up some really nice holes, and our backs ran extremely hard, got a lot of yards after contact and kept their legs chugging.
And I know offensively, you usually have some pretty good disbursement through the running game, but you also hit 5 receivers in the passing game as well. How important was that last Friday?
Yeah, it's tough to key on any one person when you've got, 3 guys again this week. Last week, against Dyke, we had 4 guys over 50 yards rushing, and this week we had 3 over 50 and 2 of them over 100. So, our quarterbacks really did a nice job of distributing the ball in the passing game. We, had seen things on film where, they played cover 3 quite a bit, and we figured that the flats would be open with some play action, and so we were able to hit some shorter passes that, and then catch those balls and turn those, 5 to 7 yard passes into 12 to 14 yard gains and move the chains. And it keeps teams from loading up the box on us when we prove that we can complete some passes. But we're really happy with that. But I tell you what, I was really impressed with the last couple of weeks has been our scout team, and Coach Converse, who runs our scout team. Those guys don't get the credit they deserve. I mean, when we play well, it's because our scout team guys are really taking their job serious. Guys like Cade Humble and Parker Keel, Sawyer Keener, and my son, Keith Anderson. I'm sure he would have liked to have played on Friday night. I mean, nobody can say that I'm not fair. I mean, my own son was on the team as a junior and 130 pounds, works his butt off in practice. He didn't get in there at all on Friday night. And I felt bad, but, we needed to win by 17 points to ensure ourselves a chance to be district champions. And so, this week, Dylan Jones, Cale Anderson, Carter Stryker, Isaiah Stryker, Dalton Krause, Hunter Christopherson, Ben Cranberry, those guys work so hard in practice, and they make sure our varsity's ready to go, and they take their job serious. If you want to have a good program and a good team, everybody has to understand their role, and everybody that, on the team, whether they get to show it on Friday nights, they're all important to our success, and those guys really bust their rear ends all week in practice, so they deserve a big shout out for all that they do for our football program.
And you play Central Springs this week, and nowadays kids are privy to a bunch of information, and everyone can see what Central Springs' record is after facing the last three opponents, knowing the fact that you had to bring it or you weren't going to get the result that you wanted. Is there a fear that that intensity, that enthusiasm, that energy won't be there, knowing the fact you're facing a 1-6 team, but needs to be there to keep the positive momentum going?
No, I'm not worried about that, actually.
Okay.
I've talked to our boys about that, and they know the importance of this game. And they also know how hard our scout team guys have worked in practice. And they know that they deserve a chance to get out there and show everybody and their parents and their friends and their classmates what they can do. And when you're playing against 3 ranked teams 3 weeks in a row, it's kind of hard to get a lot of guys in the game. And I've already, I told them, I said, it's not about going to Central Springs and just winning the game. It's going to Central Springs and playing like you're playing for the Super Bowl here, guys, and getting the job done early, and taking care of business. And if you're the better team and considerably better, then you better act like it and you better play like it. Don't come out flat. Don't play just to get the win. You play to the best of your ability. And if you do that, there's probably a pretty good chance we'll be able to get everybody in the game and get everybody considerable playing time. And I will be on those guys, and they know it already, that, our starters, I'll pull them. I don't care. I don't care. We've done the work. We've won our games by 17 plus. And to start the season, we talked to our boys about the chances in this district. There's a good chance that the team that wins the district will have 1 loss. And guess what? That's exactly where we're at. Everybody's got a loss. And right now, the fact that we understood that, we took care of business against Dike, we took care of business against Denver and AP, and we lost by 4 to Sumner Fred, but we are considerably in the driver's seat in the points for the tiebreaker if it comes down to a tiebreaker. And so we can go out to Central Springs, and we want to play well, and I expect to play well, but we have to win by 1 point. And if we do that, we ensure ourselves a good chance to be district champions. The worst we could get is second in the district. And those guys understand, though, it's not about just winning, it's going out there and playing to your ability, so that these guys that have been busting their tails in practice, everybody gets a chance to play and to show their families what they can do, and to get to enjoy playing out there on Friday nights under the lights. And I expect our guys to come out and play a really good football game. And it's supposed to be wet and nasty, but I don't think they care. They just want to come out there and set the tone going into the playoffs and not have a letdown. And I don't think we will. I think, against Sumner Fred beat us fair and square that night. But the fact is, we didn't play an A football game. We played a B football game. And I think from here on out, you're going to see A football out of the Bulldogs, whether we're playing, a team that's 7-0 or a team that's 1-6.
And what are you seeing from Central Springs on film?
They're young, so that's a big thing. I mean, if you're going to be really successful, especially in this district, you better have some good seniors and good senior leadership. And they've got, 5-6 sophomores that start on their team. They got a couple big linemen that aren't too bad. They're pretty physical. Their fullback, I really like their fullback. He's a tough kid, plays middle linebacker for them. And they run an offense very similar to ours. But they're about a year away. I think they're going to have a good squad next year or the year after, because they've got some pretty good younger guys. But the fact is, in this district, there's so many really top end teams with a lot of really good seniors. It's hard to compete, even if you got pretty solid sophomores. And so, they've got some talent. Their quarterback's pretty talented kid. The fullback's pretty good. A couple pretty good sized linemen that are pretty physical. They just don't quite have the total package to compete in this district right now. But they'll fight, and they have nothing to lose on Friday night. And their kids will play with a lot of heart too. And so our kids just have to match the intensity we've been doing the last few weeks, understand the importance of this game, and getting everybody the opportunity to play football, and then springboard into the playoffs.
All right. Hopefully that's exactly what happens on Friday night, Coach. Keep your kids healthy. We wish best of luck.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Dan Anderson, head coach of the MFL MarMac Bulldogs, brought to you by Meyer Auto Service, Havlicek Trucking, and Birdnow Chevrolet.